Come all you fair and tender ladies, take warning how.
This is a photograph of Father van Ginneken, a Dutch Jesuit, and together with a small group of his students, he decided to try to form some kind of a group that would really focus on the situation of women in the church and in society.
The intention of the Grail leaders in Europe was always to come to the United States. And Margaret van Gilsel was the international president, and she was a great intuitive person. She hurried up Ludwine and Joan because it was wartime, and you didn't know what you would be able to do or how much you would be able to travel. Well, what we were looking for, our requirements were absolutely daunting. It's wartime. A real farm with city water, with enough buildings to put up 50 people right away, within walking distance of a railroad station. And we looked all over. What we would do is we'd go out 2 by 2 to the different parishes, and then we'd go innocently to the pastor and say that our family was looking for a farm. Did he know of any farms? We also found that you could go practically anywhere and ring a doorbell and say, is this the farm that's for sale? And people would say, no, it's not this one, it's that one over there. And for a while we thought maybe God was preparing us to become real estate agents.
I'll sit down here.
We noticed activity up there one day where we had used to play tennis, and there was obviously something going on with trucks and cars had been in and out, and so we walked around to look and see in the back of the yard what it was that was going on, and we introduced ourselves and they to us, and we were very pleased. They invited us to come up, and we were introduced to other people. Ludwine was there, and we went. We had our first meal there. I remember the first time in Lent, they invited us to come up for supper, and I thought, this is great. And we went in to dinner, and all they had for light was candles on each table, and they had bread and cheese and something to drink, and that was it. And they didn't have anything else because this was Lent, and we were impressed with that.
This is the House of Joy, and the front yard here was a beautiful, beautiful front yard with a driveway that curved around, and it had daffodils, just rows of daffodils and peonies, and lovely old trees, very, very lovely old trees. But we were determined to make everything useful, so we cut down locust trees and Osage orange trees, and we took the bark off with an adze, and we did everything, and then we built a fence. And then sooner or later, somebody gave us a lot of goats, a whole truckload of goats. Well, we backed up to this new fenced-in area, and we let the goats in, and they went over the fence. So then we had to catch them again. So we put the females out and caught the males, and we didn't catch them in one day. You could see the goats at night with the huge moon behind it and the pile of manure out the dairy barn, and the goats prancing up and down. We finally caught all except one, and we decided there was no way to catch him. He was really wild, so and enjoying his freedom, terrorizing the neighborhood. So the tenant farmer's oldest boy was going to take a gun and shoot him. And then I would butcher him, and we would have the meat.
Liturgy was the unifying factor of the community, and we spent a lot of time. We sang the Mass in the parish every morning, and we did a lot with the liturgical seasons and the relation between the liturgical seasons and the natural seasons, and the tie-in with the agricultural life that we were leading.
The year school was a training program for young women focused on an integrated life of work and prayer, study, and fun.
The year's school was always with Mass every day, sometimes 2 Masses or 3. We did a lot of work. We had a goal of canning or preserving 10,000 quarts, and we did. And we had changed the carriage house, this side of the carriage house, into a kind of canning kitchen. We would sit out under the trees. We would have a meditation, someone would read, and we would be shelling peas. Or someone would read, and we would be cutting tomatoes. Or snipping beans. The readings were great. They were spiritual readings, mostly. We all had jobs to do. In the beginning, I think I did laundry. Then I never was asked to be a cook in those days. That came later. Very quickly, I was chosen as a helper for the sharecropping farmer. So I got time to spend with the farmer.
At one point, I was in charge of the chickens, and we had something like 400. And I'm trying to imagine that now, what that would have been like to collect eggs. But
just you collecting eggs?
Well, it was mostly me, and that was just part-time. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just, I would take care of the chickens and then go milk a cow, and then we'd go to church, and then we'd go to breakfast, that sort of thing in the morning. It was not unusual for Grailville to be converting barns to other uses, but this was a real special conversion because it really gave us a kind of a focus, a center for our spiritual expression.
Many young women came here as a preparation for marriage. The focus was not on remaining single in the world. It was taking your place in the world, whatever that meant for you personally. That was the essence of it. So whether you were a musician or a weaver or a cook or a teacher or a catechist, the development of the person was important, and what you would do with your future life.
The art center was at St. Bridget's, and she was our patron saint. And the chickens were there. The chickens had displaced the pigs, which had been there earlier. So the building had been built as a piggery. And the chickens were in the larger room of St. Bridget's. And on the other side was the art center. It was a table and some shelves around the edge, and that's where we did some clay work and everything we did.
Movement to the chant was called eurythmics, and most of us got to try it, and some people were very good and got to do it, as part of programs.
I was an artist since I was 8 years old, but Grailville and the attitude and the simplicity and the whole style of the furnishings at Grailville and everything about it inspired me a lot. I wasn't by nature that type of person, but I just knew that there was a simplicity that was ideal.
And the main thing I really loved was the music, and I was in the Scola, and we met every day for at least an hour. I would pick up the heavy book of the Liber and be tired from whatever it was of the day, and within a few minutes I was sitting up straight and holding that thing up with no problem. It was like the music stirred my whole soul.
I think the Dutch brought a tremendous respect for the arts when they came to this country. It was equal to every other thing we did. It was equal in importance to going out and giving talks. It was equal in importance to writing books. The visual arts and the music, they were part of our guilds. We had a kitchen guild and an agricultural guild, but we also had a writing guild, a music guild, an art guild, and a weaving guild. My goodness, that's a lot of emphasis on the arts for one place.
I think there was also a feeling that we really needed to be out there carrying out the mission of the Grail out there in the world, and a lot of people were aiming in that direction too.
Many of the programs that the Grail has started over the years have spun off on their own, and that's real. That's the purpose. We're not here to hang on to what we're doing. We're here to launch something, to spread something. The vision has to be much broader than ourselves.
In those early years, we all worked, but we had such a rich life. It was what they call materially simple, but spiritually and intellectually very rich, very rich.
'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, still by turn